Welcome, Lawrence University fans, friends, and family, and welcome back to our Goal to Go sessions brought to you by the LU Vikings Gridiron Club. It's been a while, and this is our first presentation for 2026. And I couldn't be more excited about what we're facing right now, which is an opportunity to meet with the new Lawrence University Vikings Football Head Coach. For those of you who might be newer to Lawrence University football, I'd like to let you know a little bit about our guest. Head coach Dan Galante is a Viking legend. During his playing days here from 1983 to 1986, he was an absolute force on the defensive line. Dan is the only four-time All-American in the history of Lawrence University and was a four-time first-team All-Midwest Conference selection. He still holds the school record for career sacks with 38, and he anchored the defense that led Lawrence to the 1986 Midwest Conference Championship. After his playing days, Coach Galante spent decades building highly successful football programs in the Chicago area, most notably a historic 16-year run as the head coach at St. Patrick High School. He was also a coach at North Park University and has coaching experience at Northwestern as a Wildcat. Now he is back in Appleton. Coach Galante, welcome back home and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Rob. Great to be here. Viking Nation, great to be able to talk to you and reach out and talk about what's going on in Lawrence University football.
This is an exciting time. To put this in perhaps dramatic terms, in many ways, I take what Lawrence University has done here as Lawrence University stating that you are the rock on which they will build the future of Lawrence University Viking football. And we're excited to have you for that. But let's get right into the questions. Coach, you've spent decades building a successful program down in the Chicago area. So what ultimately drove you to come back to Lawrence University for this new era of Viking football?
You know, I had tried 3 different times to come back as the head football coach, going through interviews. The last time was 2014. And I kind of thought that the chances of me being a head football coach at Lawrence were never going to happen. And when I received the call from President Carter, I said immediately, what came back to me was, you know, how much Lawrence has done for me. Lawrence definitely changed my life. I credit everything that I've become as a now to be 40-year coach from my background in the classroom at Lawrence and from the things I learned on the football field as well. So as Bear Bryant would say, when mama comes calling, you know, it's time for you to answer it. And you know, the thing I want to do is kind of restore. When we break every day, we break with together Viking pride. I want to establish our Viking pride again, and it's a daunting challenge, but I'm also feel like I'm the right guy for this mission.
You're stepping into a program that's seen extensive recent transition. So for you, I imagine that a big part of what you're facing is establishing a rock solid culture right out of the gate. And that I know is vital to your charge. You've been working, I'm sure, on developing an identity for this team. And with that in mind, what is the new mission statement for Lawrence football? And what does that look like in practice?
I wrote this mission statement, you know, on probably, you know, probably 12 years ago, but it's not kind of something I've hung my hat on. It's a mission statement that has also, you know, carried me through my years at St. Patrick High School. So basically, the Lawrence University football program is going to center on building a bond between spirit, mind, and body, while grounding itself in the educational mission of the university. That's kind of the framework of it. I'll give you the cliff notes as far as the breakdown points. The first thing we do is we value the individual. And under that sub point, I would say empathy is something that I want all of our players and coaches to exemplify. I think that's a huge value, that you can put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You never know when somebody's having a great day or a bad day. So I think it's important that we all have a great deal of empathy and show that as we go through and value each other as individuals. We're going to push limits. And I go back to, you'll see all the Vince Lombardi pictures behind me, even though I'm a Bear fan. I'm a Vince Lombardi fan, and his role and commitment to excellence. One of his phrases that I love is, we're going to relentlessly chase perfection, and in doing so, we're going to catch excellence. So we're going to constantly push our guys to be the best that they can possibly be, whether that's on the football field, in the classroom, or in the community. So we're going to accept everyone. I think one thing, just being around the guys these last couple months, I've seen great chemistry here. I see a football family here. I see a bunch of guys that really love being around each other, and have a strong family culture. Even the recruits that have come in have seen that as well. So that's something we're going to put a priority on, is that we have great chemistry. We're going to respect all persons. So that means, our attitude is going to be great. And we're going, whether it's coach to coach, coach to player, player to player, we're going to build this program on having mutual respect for each other. You don't necessarily have to love each other, but I think we all have to have a respect respect for the fact that we're all Laurentians, and the fact that we're all football players and football coaches at Lawrence University. And that's something that unites all of us. I talk about be a we guy, not a me guy. I think that's huge as far as being a great teammate, putting your own self-interest over everyone else. I think there's a value in teaching leadership to the young men. They all want to be a captain or a leader, but understanding that being a great captain or being a great leader centers on being a servant first. So I'm big on servant leadership. I think that's a huge thing. If you're going to be a leader, some of the great leaders I've been around have been guys that were captains, and they'd be the last one in the line for team meals. Ultimately, we want to prepare for life. And the phrase I use now, I've stolen it, but I think it's not 4 years, it's for life. So college is a preparation, but the next 4 years are going to get you ready for the rest of your life. And we talk about building relationships with your coaches and the players that you have here. My greatest thing that I have right now are the two guys that coach me here, defensive coordinator Mike Gallis and head coach Rich Agnes. They're both here in Appleton, and been able to, and with Coach Agnes, I've had a 40-year relationship with as a mentor. Love the process. Everyone uses that one, but I think it's a great phrase, in that whatever we're doing, whether it's in the weight room, in the classroom, whether it's spring practices, whether it's fall camp or game week, that there's a process, that we follow that process, that we give everything we can to that process and get things going in the right direction. And the last thing I would say is, be uncommon. We're looking for uncommon guys to be part of this program. We're looking for guys that are going to be uncommon in the classroom, uncommon in the community, and uncommon on the football field. And how all that will translate, one of the things we do have a 3-letter acronym that we use here called ACE. So attitude is a number one thing, that we come with a great attitude every day, that we are positive with each other every day, no matter what we're facing. C is for chemistry, that again, we have that great team, family, that great football family. And E is the one I hang my hat on the most is effort. That's something that you have control over every day, what kind of effort you're going to bring. And I think hopefully what people are going to is see a team that's going to come out and be unified, see a team that's going to come out and play with great effort, and hopefully, be a team that when we know there's going to be adversity, whether it's wins or losses, that when we face adversity, we're going to have the right attitude to overcome adversity. I think that's one of the great lessons that football teaches.
Quite a Cliff's Notes, I have to say, cover to cover. I have to admit that when we started this interview, I noticed the Vince Lombardi pictures in the back, and I was wondering how you were going to thread that needle between being a Chicago guy and a Bears fan and breach that wide chasm between Chicago football and Green Bay football. So I think you've struck a very strong political tone there and being able to unite two factions by relying on your reference to Coach Vince Lombardi. But speaking of coaches, that's really kind of one of the first things, right, Coach, that you confront when you were given the opportunity here. And I know part of that has been to expand your staff where you can. And I see that you have some known faces on the program still in terms of your coaching staff with some of the individuals that are here from previous seasons. But I was hoping you could kind of walk us through a little bit the coaches that you have assembled around you and what you think each or expect that each will bring to the locker room every day.
One of my first hires was a former played with me here at Lawrence University. He was a year older than me. He's our new defensive coordinator, Sean Stokes. He's been a 40-year high school coach down by Madison, Wisconsin, in Stoughton and Oregon High School. He's going to be a great recruiter there. And Sean's he is a great football coach. He's very intense. He is very well organized, and he really, I think, knows how to coach young men. He's done it for a long time. He's going to be great with what we do schematically, but I think the most important thing that you're hiring, he's going to be a great teacher. And I think being a great coach is being a great teacher. And he's going to teach the right things that our defense needs to be, and that needs to be a gritty defense, a team that's tough, physically tough, mentally tough. And I'm really excited to have Sean with us. So he's the class of '86 and a great football player here, defensive back for us. I've also brought in an offensive coordinator, Jason Cradman. He's been all over the place as a coach. He coached at the University of Wisconsin, the University of Oregon. He coached at Oshkosh. He coached high school football in Chicago for 15 years. And then he's originally from Florida. So he's down in Jupiter. He built a great program down in Jupiter, Florida. He's really got great schematically. He's also going to be a tremendous teacher and a recruiter for us. We're working Florida pretty hard this year, and he's really put us on to some great talent. I think he's going to be able to yearly, deliver us some really fine talent out of Florida, as well as he'll be able to recruit Chicago and Wisconsin. So those are huge gets right there. Another new face is Scott Reppert, who is Viking royalty #1. He is the greatest Viking. Number 35 is retired. He was a tremendous running back here at Lawrence. He had some stints in the NFL and Europe. But his role is going to be pretty cool in that he is just going to be a recruiting guy. He's going out right now all over the state, all over a couple states he's been already, probably 3 states, Minnesota, Illinois, and Wisconsin. So he's going to be in charge of engagement with coaches, athletic directors, also with young men. He's going to be going to some of the combines down in Chicago in May. And then he's also in charge of alumni engagement. And hopefully he and I are going to work together to put an alumni mentorship program together for our young men. So we can start hooking up some of these, guys that are really successful. We're successful here as football players and have mentors for your sons, which I think would be a huge thing that would make our program a little bit different. Coach Dallas Dean is back as the offensive line coach. So he's doing our recruiting coordinating. He's a great football coach, and I think the players love him. And he's a really good recruiter. He's really good when families are on campus here, and he's going to be back with us. Coach James Amos is back with us. He'll be the defensive back coach. He's also our strength and conditioning coach, and also does our special teams as well. And then, unfortunately, Coach Jamie Deckard got a great opportunity. Our linebacker coach, he has got an offer, and he's going to go back to his home school at Hanover College. He's going to be the defensive coordinator. So it's a great, move for him. We're definitely going to miss him. We're going to work to replace him, but he was great with again, a quiet guy, but a great coach, knows his football. And, we're going to miss him. So we're going to be filling, a couple holes there. And then the rest, we're still adding coaches for different, but we look to be like a coaching staff of about 10.
For those of you who have tuned in to previous Goal to Go sessions, you've had the opportunity to meet both Coach Dean and Coach Amos during prior sessions. The news about Coach Deckard's departure, it's sad to hear, but as you said earlier, Coach, when Mama calls, and I suppose if Deckard is returning to Hanover, I can't be one to begrudge him his decision to do that under those kinds of circumstances. But I'm hoping, Coach, that in time we will have the opportunity to have your other new coaches here as part of our forum as we get to know the new coaching staff. So we'll work with you on that. We'll find an opportunity. Obviously, every time is a busy time when you're building a program, no question about that. But hopefully we can find a reasonably quiet moment in there somewhere where we can get to know some of these other coaches as well in time, because I know a lot of people are very excited about the direction of the program and these new roles. And I can tell you that I personally am very enthused to hear about the mentorship concept that you've unveiled here. I think it is one of those things that could distinguish Lawrence football from some of its peers. Credit to you and to your staff, and of course to Coach Reppert for his efforts in that direction. So you've talked about recruiting in a lot of your conversation now, of course, central to the renewal of the program. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that as we plumb into the direction that Lawrence football is going. We know, as we've talked to you, that you have considerable experience with the Chicagoland high school football environment. And you also know, based on your involvement with Lawrence for many years and following it, you know what kind of student is likely to thrive in an upper tier academic institution like Lawrence. So when you look at recruiting and your experience, how has your particular network translated into your recruiting strategy as you're focusing on building your 2026 and 2027 classes? And to clarify, when I say 2026 and 2027 classes, we're talking about high school graduating 2026 and 2027 classes, not our graduating Lawrence classes, just to be clear. I don't think anybody mistook that, but just to be clear. So how is that, your Chicagoland connections and the rest influenced, basically your approach and attitudes toward recruiting and how you will use those connections going forward?
Good news between myself and Coach Cradman. We know a lot of high school coaches in the Chicago area. So I think for a long time that Lawrence has kind of forgotten about Chicago. back when I was playing. I hate to use that phrase sometimes, but I got to go back to the blueprint. And the blueprint was, to get the best Valley football players in Wisconsin, the ones in the Valley here in the Fox Valley, to cover the state of Wisconsin, and then to come down to Chicago and reach out to some of those great suburban programs that have high performing athletes. We used to get guys from Glenbrook South and New Trier, Evanston. I came from Loyola Academy, Deerfield High School. I think we got to get back to that. I think there's a lot of great football. I'm hoping that my connections to the Chicago Catholic League are going to net us some players out of there. It's competitive recruiting for sure, but I think I think you're going to find some great student athletes. And then also the conferences in the North Suburban Conference, the DuPage Valley is great. I think, you got to work that whole area. There's a lot of schools, but I think we got to get the Lawrence name back out there. I think the thing you're finding nowadays is that not a lot of schools are actually going into the high schools anymore, whether they're counting more on the transfer portal. So I think we got to use that opportunity to get our foot back in the door in Chicago, and then obviously back here in the Valley here and in Wisconsin. And I think it's very doable. I think you keep showing up. I think Scott Reppert going down to all those combines is going to be huge while we're doing spring ball up here. So just having Lawrence and Scott went down to the Illinois High School Coaches Convention down in Champaign. So again, he was able to tie into some great coaches from around the state, which just getting Lawrence's name back out there is going to be, it's not going to be a 1-year deal. It's going to be a 5 to 10 year deal, but we're making the right steps.
I'm looking forward to seeing Scott. I know he's going to be out in my neighborhood here in just about a month's time. And yep. I am looking forward to connecting with him in person, hopefully. What's exciting to me about Lawrence football in this area is there's just so much. It's got a rich tradition of Division III football, right? Especially right now. You look at what's going on, and you've got Division III kind of in different pockets of the country. But look at what happened this past season, right? Just as an illustration of this. North Central, who's appeared in the last 6 national championships, just down the street from where I'm recording my part of this. And then you have River Falls having participated this year, and of course Whitewater has been. So just rich tradition for football, Division III football in particular in this area. And of course Lawrence stands to try to distinguish itself in terms of its place in this rich field of Division III football. So given that Lawrence is a rigorous academic institution, and you, of course, will be involved, as will be your colleagues as coaches here, in recruiting players who would be looking to come to Lawrence from high school. When you meet with that 17-year-old student and you meet with his parents, how do you pitch the balance between playing high-level college football and the academic requirements that are necessary to get a degree from Lawrence University?
I've been in their shoes. And, I was able to excel as a student and an athlete at Lawrence University. I don't know how many people would know this, but my areas of major were history, and I studied Latin and Greek. So those were my, 2 majors. I was a double major. I thought I was going to come in and be a government major or an econ major. And somehow my advisor was the Latin teacher, and he suckered me back into studying the classics, which was great. And I built a lifelong friendship with him as well. But I think the thing as a coach, we have to understand the demands of our student athletes. We have to be, again, this comes back to something called empathy again, that we have to put ourselves in their shoes as well. We have to, as coaches, be able to listen to our student athletes. They're going to tell us, how much they can handle, what's too much. I don't think at a school like this, it can be football, 24/7. I think you have to allow these young men to have some time to do other things other than football. And during the season, it's probably a little tilted, but I think also we have to make things realistic for them to know that going through a 3-class 10-week every 10 weeks is quite a grind, and then also tell the explain to them that we're going to give them the tools, to get help. There's many resources here. You're going to a small school where you can actually talk to your professors, use those resources. So I would tell young people who are recruiting that Lawrence is going to challenge you, but at the same time, they're going to help you along the way. I certainly grew as a student over my 4 years, and it became, I kind of started to, it all kind of came together my junior year as far as understanding, what our purpose was there, and that we were there to learn how to learn, as they say.
One of the things I've learned from Lawrence in my exposure to it so far, and perhaps my rehearsal on that same message, Coach, is that at Lawrence University, you will matter as a student, and you do matter, and you won't get lost as a student. But the same can very easily be said for you as a football player as well. You do matter, and you will matter to this program, and you won't get lost in the flow. It's one of the things that I think plausibly distinguishes our program from other programs that might be around us when it comes to a student looking at his choices as to where to be a student athlete at the Division III level in this region. Coach, this has been great. We're getting near the end of this, so take a deep breath if you're ready, because we're about to get into the rapid fire segment that I didn't tease anybody that we were going to be getting into.
A lightning round.
Exactly, kind of like that. So let me start with the first one, which I'm going to borrow from Chris Berman for a moment here. We're going to take you back to 1985 when we were dealing with Dan Galante, the defensive lineman. I'm told that your stats 5'8", 205. Is that fairly accurate for your play?
It was accurate. Yep.
Okay, all right. So if I've got those stats right, you're setting up a trench drill today, but with you from back in 1985. You're lined up against one of our incoming freshman linemen. Who wins that?
Straight out, you got to go head to head with somebody. They're winning that. If I'm allowed to shoot a gap, they're in trouble. So that's how I can say either of us could win. I mean, my game wasn't attack the guy head on. I was usually shooting gaps because of my size. I was telling someone today I played against the biggest college football player at Lake Forest was named John. He was 6'7", 325 pounds. And I actually used I actually crawled under his legs at one point and stunned him. So there was no way I was running into him. So
pay attention. With Coach Galante, there is always the element of surprise.
Yes.
Now, here's the next one. We've kind of talked politics already when it comes to Chicago versus the Fox River Valley area and north of there. But being somebody who spent decades and grew up in the Chicago area, I've got to ask, what's the best Chicago deep dish spot, or do you secretly long for outings to Appleton area supper clubs?
Can I give you two answers there?
Sure.
Well, for pizza, it's definitely Lou Malnati's deep dish pepperoni, extra pepperoni. That's my go-to. And then for supper club, it's Dick and Jones here in Appleton. It's a hidden little gem, but they've got a great Friday night fish fry and everything, and that's a cool place to go to.
So again, comparing yesterday to today a little bit, how would you describe the differences between practice and preparation for football games in 1986 as opposed to 2026?
Sure. Well, I think coaching in general has gotten a lot more technical as far as just I don't ever remember our coaches having, practice plans and timing practice segments and uh, also, kind of balancing how much you're going to, be physical with understand, back in the 80s. I mean, we didn't have we had some walkthroughs, but I mean, we scrimmaged quite a bit. And when I was coaching in the 90s at North Park, I mean, if we tried to do all the physicality during the week that we did, I just think it's changed quite a bit as far as understanding that the game is physical, but the mental part is really important, and how you set the practices up and how you're timing everything. I think there's just and a lot of that is just the growth of there's so much coaching information out there now that you can glean off of the internet, the YouTube channels. There's basically coaches that can explain just about anything that you need as far as I think that part of it's probably grown quite a bit, as well as just the kind of preparation that goes into a season. And yeah, that would be my answer.
Going back in the day again, what is your absolute favorite memory of playing at the Banta Bowl?
Well, the no-brainer. That's was playing in the conference championship game on November 14, 1986. And I'll never forget that day. It was a really cold day, and we were playing Polk College, who was undefeated. If they win, they go to the national playoffs. And little old Lawrence University, we went down in that game. Uh, we were down 10-7 with a minute left, and our quarterback drove us down 70 yards down the field, and we scored we still had to kick off. We didn't burn enough of the clock, but I'll never forget that. And that was the feeling that I did not want to leave the bowl that day. Um, I was ready to camp out there, and but it was my last football game. I'd never been a champion at any level, so to walk off the field your last game as a champion was something and again, that's kind of what led me into coaching, because when I went on winter break, I started sending out letters to all the Big Ten coaches looking for a GA position. Everything kind of triggered itself off that game, kind of sprung me into coaching, and haven't looked back for 40 years.
Wow. Did you say that was against Co College, the
Yeah,
Co-Hawks?
Co is in our conference
They
then.
were. Okay, from Cedar Rapids. That's another question just prompted to me while we were talking just now. You kept talking about football in the 80s. So I'm going to ask you a question, a bit of nostalgia here. Might catch you a little bit by surprise. When you're getting ready for games as a player back then, what songs were you mainly listening to?
Good question. And I was one of the captains, so they had to listen to whatever I wanted to, and on my little boom box that I would bring uh, to the locker room. But I was a big Who guy. I love the Who, Pinball Wizard, and all the Who's greatest hits. I thought that got you ready, and then a little bit of Bruce Springsteen as well. So those were my go-tos.
Always great to pull up on a British band to get ready to play American football,
Yeah,
but why not?
exactly.
But why not?
Why not?
The flag is the same
They
color.
were they were loud and got you ready to go.
They were. I suppose Baba O'Reilly could be said to be
Yeah, Bob O'Reilly.
a
Yep.
pump up song for sure, for sure. Well, Coach, as always, getting the opportunity, new leadership, exciting time, challenging time, busy time for you. I'm very grateful for your time with us. You're very generous with that, and I know there were a lot of people that have been looking forward to this event so we could record this. Full disclosure for those who are tuning in, this video is likely to be posted on Friday the 3rd. It's being recorded on April 1st, but we are not fooling around here today. So everything you're seeing is the direct truth and nothing but the truth. And we are looking forward to spring football coming up here in the future. We're looking forward to kind of a new era for Lawrence football. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. We all know that. If you're an alumni tuning in, hopefully you're reaching out or contacting Coach Reppert. Critical to see that alumni support coming back in for the program. I'm sure that's already started to materialize for you, Coach. I'd like to believe that that's one of the critical elements to bringing you in here is basically bringing the family back together again in a very real way. But we thank you again so much for your time. And I'm hoping, Coach, I know you may not make any promises now, but I'm hoping that we can have some more such meetings with you in the future as we move closer to the 2026 football season. Could we hope to do that again, maybe?
We could hope to do that, Rob.
Excellent, excellent. Well, again, we thank you for
especially
your
if you have questions like you did tonight.
Well, we try to make this a friendly environment. We want to make this pro Lawrence University.
Yes.
That's the objective through and through. Sometimes we have to deal with the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yep.
We do it in the best way that we can, right? That's what we're trying to do.
That's it.
With that said, for anyone who's tuning in and saying, hey, I've just tuned in and saw these for the first time, we do have a library of other recordings that feature some of the players from the past and some alumni as well. You're welcome to check that out. If any of this inspires you in any way to get involved with Lawrence University's football from a fan perspective, there is the Gridiron Club. I will simply let you know that there is a web page on the Lawrence University Athletics website under football for the LU Vikings Gridiron Club. We'd love to hear from you. We welcome Coach Galante. We thank him again for his time, and we wish the best to Lawrence University Vikings football. Good night, everyone.
Go Vikings.